Okay, so welcome everybody. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so those who are listening, we were just talking about the FDA and the recent regulatory actions and the comment period that is currently open. And so I want everybody to consider adding a comment. And Dot says that she's just mentioned the campaign to gather signatures on her radio show. Fabulous, fabulous. All right. So last time and the time before we did cases where there was sort of a thing and we found a remedy and it solved it. And I had this sort of naive and complete and total bias as a homeopath early on. When I was studying homeopathy, I had 4 small children at home. And so I had lab. I had a very ready number of bumps and bruises and colds and flu and sore throat and vomiting and diarrhea and athlete's foot between the toes and what do you do after stitches, and I knocked my tooth out, and you know how it is. So I started out with the idea that when you had an acute or what looked like an acute with a client or a family member or a neighbor's kid or your cat or whatever, that you gave one remedy and that was supposed to resolve it. And in actual fact, if you read a lot of what Hahnemann says and what other old homeopathic masters say, they offer us ideas about specific patterns where a remedy is given and then the pattern, it does something. And then the pattern changes. It might not finish everything, but it does something good. And then it looks like a different pattern. And when it looks like a different pattern, I used to just give the same remedy again and again and again and say, why isn't it working anymore? And it isn't working because the pattern isn't the same anymore. Remember, homeopathy is about pattern matching. We've got symptoms of the vital force, symptoms of the remedy, and we put them together and something good happens. And when they don't match so well, things that aren't so good come about. So what we're going to do today is 2 parts of a case. Everybody got your repertory on hand, either with your computer or in your hand? And we're ready to tackle this? Okay, so this woman is calling about her son. Oh, and I'm going to have to undo my headset. All right, this gal is calling about her son who has had his wisdom teeth out. So we're going to watch the first half of this, and we're going to do 2 things. The first one is keynote recognition. Based on what she says, what are the keynotes that we recognize, and what are any remedies that we might think of because of that? Second thing that she says, we're going to think about remedies that, or excuse me, about rubrics that would apply to that. And the reason why we need to take this very big step from keynotes to rubrics is because we're going to find out how many other remedies that we didn't think about, but we know and love, are there for that symptom where we only thought of 1 or 2 big guys. So the repertory is wonderful for helping you be a better homeopath. It helps you do better quality homeopathy by helping you remember all the things you forgot or never knew. Okay, you guys ready? We ready to dive in? Got your pencil? Got your paper? Ready to write stuff down? Okay, here we go. This is Carla.
I'm calling about my son. His wisdom teeth taken out yesterday. He's doing all right. I'm giving him arnica, and his swelling is not too bad, but he tells me that his jaw hurts really bad. And he says it hurts when he actually moves, and not just when he moves his jaw, but when he moves any part of his body, when he moves his arm or his foot. You know, it makes sense that he would have pain when he moved his jaw, but he says it hurts when he moves anything. So I don't know if I should keep giving him the arnica, or do you want to try something else?
Okay. So we're 54 seconds in, and now we have to have some observations. What do we think about what she's telling us? First of all, what's the category of complaint? What's the category we're working in? We know that we want a remedy that's going to deal with post-surgical trauma, right? So, you know, we think of surgery as this really constructive thing, but your body's like, holy moly, I don't know what was going on there, but something came in and ripped my teeth out, and now I am not okay. All right? So we know that we're going to be looking for something that has to do with trauma, with surgery, with incisions, with cutting, with an injury. Yeah? So what remedies can we think of other than, she mentions arnica. Now, arnica deals with trauma to soft tissue. So all of the upset and the swelling that makes you look like a chipmunk after you have your wisdom teeth out, that's probably a pretty good choice. But she says he's having pain in the jaw, bone pain in the jawbone after surgery, after trauma. So what do you think about that, guys? If we're talking about post-surgical injury and pain in the jaw, and we don't have a lot of detail here. We don't know if it's in the joint, if it's in the upper jaw, if it's in the lower jaw. She just said jaw. We don't know what kind of pain it is. We don't have a lot of that kind of detail. So if we're talking broad brush, we know that it's going to be a post-injury thing affecting the jaw. We don't even have which side it is. So what ideas do you have? Does anybody have a remedy that they would think of other than arnica for dental trauma? Oh, thank you, Dot. That's excellent. Dot has suggested calendula, and calendula is in the Compositae family, which is a family, it's similar to arnica, is also in that family. And those remedies are known as vulneraries. Are you guys familiar with that term? Vulnerary? Oh, wait a minute. I sent that to me. Okay. Are you guys familiar with this word, vulnerary? It basically means something that you do around trauma, around injury, around bleeding, crushed, smashed, broken, ouchie. And, oh, okay, great. So Carol says the remedies that come to mind for her are bryonia, which has this strong affinity to bony structures, and ledum, and hypericum. And all of these would apply to somebody who just had their teeth out. Ledum is associated with insertions, with things that are punctures, which certainly happens. You know, you get punctured injections and your tooth is pried out of there. And then hypericum has a very strong affinity for dental work and nerve pain. So right up front, before we even look at the repertory, we've got some ideas about this. Now, let's go back to what Dot had to say about calendula. Some of you may not be familiar with the history of calendula. It was used as a substitute for morphine during the Civil War in the US. It was used as an antiseptic, and they would dilute it down and wash the wound with it so that it wouldn't get infected. And it was used to reduce pain. So in cases of trauma and injury, it's really, really useful for reducing pain. Okay, so these are great. You guys have ideas that are coming to your mind already. Anybody else want to put something else on the table? Aconite. Aconite's a great remedy for trauma, for nerve pain, for dealing with, some people don't deal so well with going into anesthesia and coming out of anesthesia. Yeah, and the more nervy the quality of the nerve pain is, um, Burnett, James Compton Burnett, said that aconite cured more cases of neuralgic pain in his practice than anything else. Like 80% of his neuralgic pain cases were cured by aconite. Yeah. And then Kristen's got a question, calendula in mother tincture or in potency? I use it both ways. During the Civil War, they used it in mother tincture and in dilute mother tincture. And the naturopaths very often use it in low X potencies. And I've used it in every potency for people who have really severe chronic pain. I have clients who go through cycles, pain cycles, where they'll take like a 10M or 50M of this daily for a little while. Yeah, so every potency works. Okay, so now we've got this idea, trauma, injury, pain, and we got one really good modality out of this. We've got a location, sort of, a jaw. We've got an etiology, injury, and we've got one good solid modality. What's our good modality that Carla gave us? Whenever, thank you, Bobby, whenever her son moves, it hurts. Now, she says it would make sense if he was moving his jaw and it hurts, but when he moves his foot, his jaw hurts. Now, that's remarkable, isn't it? Okay, so give me an idea about a remedy that has that feature, aggravation from movement. This is another vote for Carol's earlier comment on bryonia. This is one of the big, big features of bryonia alba, that it's worse from movement. Okay, so we've identified what do we know in our own little brain. And this is exactly what Hahnemann did for like the first 15 years of his practice. He went through, what do I know in my own little brain? Oh, thank you, Dot. Eupatorium, yes. Eupatorium also has pain that feels like the bone is broken, that's worse from motion. Okay, so Hahnemann would go through and say, what do I already know? And then he would go back through his notes and try to find other things. And eventually he found this a little bit frustrating. And so he asked Ernst Ruckert, one of his assistants and devotees, to create a cross-reference between this is the symptom and these are all the remedies that are associated with that symptom, which eventually led us to the repertory. Okay, so let's pull up the repertory. I'm going to pull up mine here and share it with you. And let's just start with, each of these represents, now I know you guys have a book in the hand. If I could share my book with you, I would, but I have to do it this way because that's what I can share. So what's the first thing that we're going to want to find in here? Now, we came up with 3 big things. There's a vulnerary, there's a sort of location, and there's a kind of modality. So we talked last time about being sure that we had a 3-legged stool. We could choose a remedy just based on what we know from our own pure little brain. But we kind of want to know, what do we not know? Or maybe there are other options that are even better, that are more exact, but I haven't seen them in that way before. And so I wouldn't predict them in that way. And I wouldn't know them in that way. So let's jump into the repertory. Where are we going to find something that has to do with post-surgical trauma? Should we look, because we're working on the mouth, should we look in the mouth? Should we look in generalities? Should we look in mind? Where should we look? Mouth and generalities first. Excellent. So, what can you find? Let's start in those 2 places. So if we look in the mouth section here, anything that looks promising? Excellent. Carol's got mouth, pain, extraction of teeth. Mouth pain, gums, aching. I'm not seeing exactly what you've got there. Are you using something beyond Kent's? Oh, for this, it's broken out here. There we go. Mouth pain, toothache. Gums first. Should we try that? Okay, let's go back here. Mouth, pain, gums, extraction of teeth after. Okay. So what do we have here? We've got, these are remedies that Kent associated with this. Cantharis, which deals with local inflammation. Fluoric acid, which has a really, really strong affinity to the roots of the teeth. Hecla, which has a very strong affinity to the jaw. Hyoscyamus, which I have no idea at all why that is in there. I know nothing about hyoscyamus that would make sense to me in this setting. Anybody else got something? I would have to go look at the proving to see what's there. I would have to go track down extractions of teeth in the hyoscyamus provings and case records to find out. Anybody got an idea about that to share? I got nothing. I don't know why that's in there. So that makes me curious. Now I get to find out something new. And then hypericum, we talked about already, and nux vomica, which also is a very, very strongly neuralgic remedy. And not only does it deal with the neuralgic trauma, it also deals with the fact that this person probably just went through some kind of anesthesia, drug, something, because nux vomica deals with the sequela of all those kinds of alteration substances. Okay, so that's great. What else? So we've got something to start. Anybody got something else about that? Right, she did say that his jaw hurts. So what we're going for here is the extraction of teeth. So Bobby, that's an excellent point. Where can we find a rubric that says pain in the jaw? Particularly, we're going to be looking at pain in the jaw that's worse with motion. Can we find something like that in there? Remember that under pain, we're going to have some locations, and then we're going to have some sensations. Kent was very specific about the way that he arranged things. The mouth section just has what's inside the mouth, and technically the jaws are like the upper and lower framing of the mouth, but according to Kent, they're not in the mouth section. Where should we look for those? Where are we going to find those? In the face, exactly, Dot. Good. So, face. And now we're going to look for pain. Ouch. And now we're going to look for a location. We have to go through all the, remember the structure. We're looking here at the beginning. There's the right side and the left side, which we don't know, so we don't care. And then the time. And then we start here with the A's, and now we're going through all the different modalities, right? So here's motion. We're probably going to want to come back to that. And if we go through all of these different modalities, we get to the end of them, and then we find extensions. If she had said he's got pain in his jaw that extends to his eyebrow, he's got pain in his jaw that extends to the clavicle, then we'd be looking at extensions. But right now, we're just going to find jaw. He's got pain in his jaw. Hooray. So now we're going to grab that rubric. And we've got pain in the lower jaw. Okay. Pain with articulation when he's moving his jaw, which actually we do have. And when he's chewing, when he's swallowing, when he's yawning, when he's opening his mouth, we don't have any detail to tell us anything like that. But we can say when he moves his jaw, it hurts. Okay? Now, what if we go back up here to motion and we find out what happens, because we know that his mouth hurts when he moves it. Okay, motion. Motion aggravates. Hooray. So let's put that in there. And here's our friend Bryonia, which we could expect. And motion of the face aggravating, this isn't specific for the jaw, but it's telling us we're not surprised to see Bryonia here. I'm kind of surprised. Well, there's our friend Nux vomica. We don't see eupatorium in here, but let's see if we can find that anywhere. Okay, so we know that not only does local motion hurt, but motion anywhere hurts. Where are we going to find that? That's the more unusual thing that's going on here, isn't it? Where are we going to look for that? Generalities. Yep, excellent. So let's go in here. Generalities, motion aggravates. Should we see what's in there? Here's our friend Bryonia, which we've been looking at. There's ledum, which Carol brought up earlier. There's nux vomica. We got a lot of choices in here, don't we? Now, this is why Hahnemann wanted us to use a repertory, because he could only keep a little bit of this in his head. There's our good friend hyoscyamus again, which we still don't know why it is. And here's our Eupatorium perfoliatum that Dot suggested earlier. Do we have calendula in here? No, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was in similar rubrics. Okay, so let's look to see what we've got now. Our three-legged stool is that there was some kind of injury, that there was pain in the jaw, and that it's worse from moving. We don't have a rubric here for injury yet. We've got extraction. That's a suggestion. Can we find something more general to help with that? We could even use something like generalities, injuries. And this gives us, it puts us very clearly into the land of trauma. Okay, so let's share now so that you guys can see our list of rubrics. Mouth pain, gums, extraction of teeth after, which gives us, it tells us that there was something going on that was surgical. Then we've got jaw pain in the face, jaw pain when you move it, face pain when you move it, which is a little bit more general. And then generalities, motion aggravates, which is for everything. And then something related to trauma. It's going to pull forward the vulnerary remedies. Okay, so let's look and see what comes out of that. Okay. You guys able to see what we got going here? Here, let me, wow, that's a really big, whew. Okay, so we've got nux vomica, hypericum, bryonia. This is fantastic, guys. This tells me that you were right on the ball, finding things that were in the ballpark. But we've also got causticum and calcarea and spigelia and conium, which I might not have expected. China, our friend floric acid and sulfuric acid, both of these have a lot of affinity to trauma in the jaw. Lachesis, mercurius, which has so much affinity to the teeth and the roots of the teeth. Nitric acid, that's interesting. I'm not sure why that's there, but okay. Staphysagria, which is very commonly indicated when people have had some kind of surgery cut with a knife. Cimicifuga, okay, I would not have expected that. Belladonna, Cantharis, Colchicum, Colocynthus. A lot of these are ones that we saw that had aggravation from motion. Rustox, which certainly has early aggravation from motion. Ledum, which we were looking at before. Senegalis, okay, that's interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. Arnica, hooray. Heparsulf, which has such a sensitivity to pain. And then phosphorus, which is a very, very often indicated when people are having excessive pain coming out of anesthesia. And then hyoscyamus, which again, I have no idea why it's there. And we could keep trucking along. Now you guys got me curious. I'm going to have to go find out. All right. So this thing that we've done today where we say, what did the person say? What are the things we already know in our head? And then what can we find in the repertory to add to that, to make sure that we are more robust in what we do? Now, in actual fact, the remedy that was given at this point for this woman was bryonia, which took away the pain for a couple of days. And then it changed. And then she called back. And when we meet next time, we'll discuss when she called back and what happened next, okay? You guys have questions? Other comments about Carla and her son and their bryonia? Okay. Oh, why face pain, general jaw articulation? All of the rubrics about the pain in the jaw are going to be found in the face section, and articulation means moving it. And the mom said, well, I understand why he would have pain when he moves the jaw because he just had surgery. And so articulation means when he's moving the jaw. But he had more than that too, didn't he? He had pain generally on movement. And so we put both of those in there in order to make sure that we're covering the circumstances. You just put in the obvious and then go more specific. Often, yes. I want to make really, really sure that the category of what I'm working with is covered. And let's just look back at this really briefly, because Bobby brings up a really good point. Look at how small this rubric for extraction is. There's 6 remedies in it. Do you really believe that there's only 6 remedies in the Materia Medica? You know, I just can't imagine that Kent only gave 6 different remedies when people had had a tooth out. So when we're looking here, sometimes I might take something like these 3 rubrics, the jaw articulation, the motion aggravates in the face, and the generalities motion aggravates, and add them all together in order to focus it more. But yeah, I want to make sure that what is really obvious and clear in the case is part of the rubric set. Does that help, Bobby? Okay. All right, guys. So when we meet next time, we will do the other half of this case. All right, you guys have a fabulous week, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.